All right, good morning and welcome to the channel. Sorry for my tardiness. We have some AT&T issues with internet. So if you're having problems with our sound or audio, please let me know. Hopefully it's going to be okay this morning. So, all right, about today. I've been monitoring Congress and the House to see whether or not funding was going to be an issue for Section 8 housing, and up to this point, it has not been. Now, that's rapidly changing because funding levels are running out. Many PHAs only have about a couple of days to a week of funding. You got to remember, HUD sends funding to PHAs or public housing authorities. When we close that and a housing authority's reserve is gone, which would be October, and there are no new funds coming in, it means that many of these programs will cease making payments on vouchers already issued. You know, there are millions of vouchers around the nation. We get about a week before the first row of housing authorities nationwide will begin having problems. By the first 7 days of November, that problem will escalate to a vast portion of housing authorities, and then it will grow from there. If we reach a second week in November, we'll reach a point of absolution where there isn't any money for HUD to issue or approve for PHAs around the nation. Now, keep in mind, some housing authorities do keep a reserve, but look, we're third week into October, and we got one more week to go. Housing authorities they're not like Apple and Amazon. They don't keep a $500 billion reserve hidden in Ireland. You know, they only have so much money, and when that money's cut off, they just can't pay, which means ultimately it could spell evictions. Now, whether those evictions could be legal or even be thrown out, it's a different story, because, you know, the federal government does offer some protections, but the reality of it is, we're reaching a crisis point, and it will be reached for Halloween. For those that practice Halloween, you know, kids that want free candy, witches, and all that good stuff. So, you know, normally looking at any administration, I would say, hey, you know, we're having a government shutdown. We're going to resolve our problems like big boys and big girls, but that's not the case here. You know, these guys are holding out. The Democrats don't want to do anything. President Trump's on the golf course. So it's a big FU to both parties. You know, they don't want to talk. They don't want to do anything. This is not the only thing at risk. You know, food stamps is fixing to get cut off. Okay. They've already talked about that. There is no money right now. Both parties are creating discussions about just giving $12 million just to be able for people to have food stamps, you know, for those that have it, seniors, disabled, and so on, families. So there's a real reckoning at the end of the month, you know, and this could spell out people being foodless, homeless, or even evicted. And if we push all the way into November, it's going to get very, very serious, very quick for about 5 million people. You know, and many of you say, oh, well, you know, vouchers are protected. You really can't evict. Well, look, you can't. Here's the deal. Whether it's protected or not doesn't matter. The level of ignorance by landlords can be rather staggering, just like those with the vouchers that rent. If the landlord don't give a shit, he's still going to try. And if he doesn't understand federal rules, then he's going to proceed with trying to evict your ass, whether, you know, because you have no payment on your voucher. He doesn't want you there. This could spell out ruining a lot of relationships for landlords to tenants. If they can no longer trust the federal government to make these payments, then why the hell would they want to accept these vouchers in the future? You know, in circumstances like this, which this is rare. This is a rare one where we have a divide. And the divide's so big that neither parties even want to discuss anything. It's a government vacation for both parties. You know, we're reaching a crisis point with this, and that crisis will launch in full effect October 31st. And then it will deteriorate at a rapid pace between November 1st and November 15th. If we go any further than that, then that's when the builders come out with pitchforks or a match and a gas can, because you cannot you can't create a problem where we literally start evicting people and we stop paying. Not only that, but the housing authorities, which I'm not here to argue on their part, but without money, they can't operate. They can't turn the lights. They can't do anything administratively. They're not going to answer the phone. Housing authorities don't operate that well already. And if you take away funding, they have no incentive. So for now, they barely answer emails. Most of them have done away with telephones. They prefer a can and a string, smoke signals, and other things. They don't want to really do anything with anybody other than just give you a voucher. They don't like to answer questions or anything. Some of you have good caseworkers, but for most of you, you've got serial killers and the mob working at the housing authority, and they just are not very pleasant people to deal with. Well, when they're not paid like this and things get tough, it gets worse. And housing authorities to work and operate rather lawlessly, and there's many of them that have been indicted. When you take away this funding, then for them to tighten their budget, they're going to start finding reasons. Okay, they're going to start finding reasons to get rid of you. So they sit around the coffee table and go, hey, we got 5,000 people with 5,000 vouchers. How do we get rid of half these people? Let's start violating everybody. If Nancy calls more than once a week, ban her ass. So write her up. Let's get rid of her. And so it creates all kinds of adversarial actions. You have to keep in mind, HUD is a federal agency. Your local housing authority is not run by the feds. They're not held to the same standard or conduct. These are ordinary people you could find at any red light hotel, Craigslist, just ordinary old people working there. They may have just gotten their GED. Who knows? And so when given a directive to start dumping people with vouchers for any old reason, then it's time to do a review. Because in the end, the ultimate goal of many housing authorities is simply to make money regardless of whether or not you're housed, okay? Every time they have to pick up a phone, that's just free time for them they don't really get paid for. So I think you guys really don't understand the concept of PHAs. It is for profit. They are not nonprofits. So I'm concerned that relationships and the ability to possess and use that voucher become in jeopardy or peril with an already poorly run housing authority with people with attitudes, okay, that run people's cases. When you take the paycheck away, then these people already had no incentive to help you as it is. Now you're giving them jet fuel. And so that jet fuel is what we're looking at as we spend our last week wondering why people are still sipping on whiskey and smoking cigars over there in Congress, sitting on golf courses and other things. And I'm not referring to President Trump. I'm referring to the good old boys sitting up in there that can't get along long enough to even approve a small bill. They won't even approve 12 million. Now, clearly, the bills are much bigger than that. So it's going to get serious. And so I think a lot of you, this is my advice. I've been in this industry for 26 years as a Section 8 consultant. You need to reach out to your PHA today. Now, either they're going to lie to you or not, but you need to find out. If you have a Section 8 housing voucher, if you are in a subsidized 811, 211 subsidy, affordable housing, you need to reach out to those people. Okay? There's only so much tolerance that investors that own these buildings and properties are going to put up with, and they're not going to care about special protections. They'll just as quickly give you a 3-day notice to vacate. Okay? And so I don't care what's on the books. Many of you are going to try to argue, oh, well, I'm protected. It's federal. Nah. Look, let's talk about there's what you read, and then there's the real world. Okay? These people are not fucking around. If the voucher is not going to pay them, these landlords don't give a shit. And look, if they can't get you on the basis of the voucher, not receiving payment from that, landlords can become nefarious as well. They can decide any number of reasons to evict you besides the one attached to the government not paying their portion. You see how that opens up other issues. Okay, well, I can't evict her because she's supposed to have guaranteed payment, but it's not coming in. I think I'll just find another reason. I told that lazy woman not to put a potted plant on the patio. Therefore, she's violated the lease. Now I'm gonna take her ass into court, and I'm just gonna get rid of her. But I won't tell the judge that really the reason I'm gonna do that is because I can no longer trust the government to pay the voucher. So shady shit's gonna happen, and it's gonna get shadier as we get into November. And how might I know that? I've dealt with thousands of landlords through my company, and I've dealt with thousands of tenants, and the human element's a big factor. If you can't screw somebody one way, you'll find another. Not everybody's doing prayer circles. Watch your ass with this. I'm serious. I'm up for retirement. I'm almost, me and my 4 cats were packing up going in a RV, and travel a bit of the nation, enjoy life a bit after this, quarter century run. What I'm telling you guys is these are in different times. And in the end, you are responsible for your own ass. If you sit there and you think the government or anybody else is going to work around the clock to save you and your voucher, you'd be a fool. I'm building up in the system to know the evils of it. Now, there is a fear factor to this. And I am fear mongering. Why am I doing that? Because you got about 3 weeks. And you should be fearful. Not everything in life's about rainbows and unicorns. Not all shit you're going to hear is going to make you feel warm and fuzzy, okay? We got to get away from this whole living on the planet deal where, every time somebody makes a comment that makes people upset or indifferent to something, it's fear mongering. No, it's reality. And if you can't swallow reality, then, hey, get a pine box, go bury yourself. Reality is reality. And you're fixing to face that. For many of you, you're going to face it. You got children, you got people in wheelchairs, you've got small kids on oxygen machines. You think the government cares about that? You think that landlord cares? It's money, baby. If you don't have cold, hard cash to pay that rent, they'll put your ass out. Because the landlord's the same way, they got a mortgage to pay. So here we are. 1 week. That's what you got. After that, and that's 1 week to the first round, the first wave of this. And then it will become more extensive each additional week. Anybody wants to come preach some miracles in here about, the government's going to take care of it, hold my hand, send me a Christmas card and do a prayer circle, please, get lost. I know the realities. I spent half my time reading through legislation, congressional reports, directors' reports, policies, procedure, titles, and codes. Okay, I'm not a children's party clown. I'm not here for that, okay? I don't entertain. That's a lot of other people in YouTube that want to talk a little bit about this and that about Section 8 don't know shit. I'm an actual consultant. I know. And what I'm trying to do is reach you so you understand. Don't sit around and think somebody's going to do something for you. Now, you could lobby or call your congressman. What's that going to do? These people out here that make these decisions for all of us, especially those of you that have vouchers, look, they're not on a voucher, okay? They're making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. They'll ride back to their Malibu home with their kids in Gucci and Versace driving a Ferrari, while the rest of us normal fucking people on the planet are going to feel the consequence of that. You thinking of them senators and congressmen up there that can't get along on both parties? Do you think they live in a trailer? Do you think these people live in a trailer park or the hood? These are not middle-class people. They got nothing to worry about. And here is another thing you need to take into consideration. If we as a country don't solve our problems, if we don't solve these problems by the second week of November, do you know what these people do up there at the House and Congress? They go on vacation. This is all the reason they need. Turkey Day is coming, so that'll be 2 weeks off, and they'll be in Fiji, okay? We'll be in hell. They'll be in Fiji, all right? And then they think to themselves, well, look, Christmas is coming, so I'm going to take another month off. If these problems are not solved by the second week of November, then you can bet your lucky ass it'll be to January. Because ain't nobody, people that got money are not, they're trying to celebrate holidays. And holidays for them is not taking the weekend off, it's taking the week or the month off. Not only that, but housing authorities operate the same way. Most of you don't know this, but when you get around Thanksgiving, you'll watch a production level of employees at housing authorities. They seem rather non-existent until the first. They've already cooked their books for the year. They're not trying to hear shit out your mouth, and they're not worried. They don't actually clock back into their job till January, okay? If you didn't know that, wake the hell up. So we, all this stuff is coalescing to one big point. And again, there's reality and there's the real world. That's what we're discussing, the real world. Not everything works like in a playbook. Google says this, Google says that. Look, that's not the real world. That's Google will tell you about the perfect conditions in which the government and its rules are going to do things for you. That's not reality. Okay. Wake up, please. All right. So I'm going to go into the comments here. And so, yeah, you should be fearful. I don't need to fearmonger anything. If you have a lick of common sense, then you'll understand what I'm telling you. If you don't, and you're still delusional and you've got bubbles in your brain, hey, there's no helping you. You'll find out. When your shit's on the sidewalk, you'll figure it out. And if you do lose the voucher, don't think the housing authority won't find that a rather opportune moment. Well, we're sorry we couldn't make the payment because HUD didn't have it. Unfortunately, we found 18 other reasons to go ahead and just make this permanent for you. So here's a number to 211. They'll defer you to the nearest shelter. I'm telling you, if you don't think things are that difficult and that tough, it can go downhill real quick. You need to reach out to your PHAs. Let me go back on these comments. I can't wait. I hope I don't have to throw anybody off the channel today, because the first person that says something that makes them seem like they're delusional and they've got some easy, cheesy answer, I'm going to put their ass off this channel. I'm tired of dealing with unrealistic people that don't connect with reality. It's like their internet signal in their brain doesn't work. They're not connected to reality. They want everything warm and fuzzy, just like you get when you send them down to the psychiatric ward. All right, Chris Roles, good morning. RKX, I need to get some eyeglasses because half the time I can't read 2 foot away. All right, good morning. David, good morning to everyone. God bless. Truth works. System reset. I'm not an internet savvy guy, so I got to figure this out today, because AT&T is really on my hit list right now. If I get on the phone as jacked up as I am right now, I can tell you somebody's going to be in tears on the end of that phone line. I don't give a shit if they own the company or not. As much as I pay for an internet connection, I'm sitting here on fucking dial-up almost. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Scorpio Queen, I'm on HUD moving into my apartment November 27th. Congratulations. I hope that remains a great possibility for you. The Peace Frog says peace. Well, peace, rainbows, and unicorns to you too, brother. Or ma'am. I don't know. Joseph R. When can we start the food survival looting? Well, typically the population of each city will determine when they're ready to loot and burn the city down. We as a country, we're like a pressure cooker, this country. We've been through a lot. I mean, we've been through pandemics, we've been through recessions, inflations. You keep pushing people, and eventually things pop off. They pop off big time. Changes are good, but a culminating effect. Look, and America didn't arrive in a situation instantly, or even during this administration. This is 20 years of nonsense. It's all built up, and then we've had several natural events that have happened in the U.S., and now we're in this pressure cooker, and we can't seem to get back to where we used to be as Americans, and shit just keeps happening, man. And people are becoming tired. I know I am. Let's see what else we got here. Trust works, tough times we live in. History Does the rhyme, huh? Ned, congratulations, Queen. Trustwork goes on to say evil to the poor sufferer. Well, there you go. Sounds like a good one. Biggest Johnny, thousands of people will be hungry and living under the bridge soon. Oh, well, that's already the case. We're just expediting this. We're popping another ticket to allow people to fast track their. It's like you're in a hole in a ditch, and you take a teaspoon out the back pocket, and you dig yourself a little deeper into this shit, and that's where we are right now. The timeline's just running out. It's hard to understand how we can even get out of this, to be frank with you. All right, Dad, I agree with Jimmy. Vegas Johnny seems like a purge to me. They can happen any way it needs to. Purges can happen politically. They can happen after geopolitical events. They can happen because of pandemics, elections, and now this. I think it's just a combination of facts, issues in the country that are just stacking up. We've got too much on our plate as a country. Maybe we should withdraw ourselves from half the planet and focus largely on the U.S. But that's just my thinking. I'm not a country planner, obviously. Moving on from there, Cab, where would a state housing authority voucher fall? I was told Section 8 didn't exist anymore. Well, first I give advice is if you're going to get information from other people, make sure it's not third party. Section 8, let's be clear about what Section 8 is, okay? And a consultant will know this, where entertainers on YouTube won't. Section 8 is subsection 8 of Code of Federal Regulation under Title 24. It's the little inception of the program that allows the federal government to subsidize the cost of housing and vouchers for you guys. So yes, it does exist, though many of you have coined the term Section 8. Many of you don't know what it means, and I just told you what it means. Okay? You use that as a blanket program to cover everything, but that's not what it is. It's Code of Federal Regulation, subsection 8. I encourage you guys to look it up. It'd make you know a little bit more than half the people that breathe that word out quite frequently. Moving on from there. HOPRA's Section 8 was meant to be a temporary program for most people, not to be a permanent. Well, we also need to look at ideologies. The inception of the program has been 80 years. We're not quite sure what people were thinking then. We don't know what their goals were there. It was a different time, a different world, and quite potentially it could have been for a limited. They may have wanted it for a temporary amount of time. They may have wanted it for a smaller group of people. There's a lot of ideas about it, but unfortunately, most of us weren't even alive then. So I don't agree or disagree with that comment. Von B, has the state block grant? No. So on earlier conversations and videos, we discussed the potential for the Urban Department of Housing and Development, which would be HUD. Okay. And I should also add to the end of that, we leave off quite frequently, Indian Affairs. The reason HUD was created to begin with was to address those that are the original people in this country. And it ain't no white folks. It was Indians. And I don't mean from India. Anyways, I don't want to get into history here, but look, it probably should be temporary. However, the program went into place. It worked it was broken, but still worked well enough. Let's put it that way. Anybody here dealt with a circumstance like that where you know you're dealing with a broken system, but it still operates well enough to keep the light bulbs on? Well, that's what HUD is. And when you take and you remove a block out of the Jenga board, it can collapse. And so too many blocks have been pulled, or you have events where we have shutdowns that can destabilize something that's not already unstable. That's where we are. Peace Rock. Preach. Yeah, I feel like it. I mean, hell, I kicked out about 8 profanities in the first, 10 minutes. I'm doing good today. It's time to go back and sit in church for a bit. All right, TrustWorks, great information. Ocean Sound 100. My yearly renewal is in June. I called them and they said funding will be at least go until June 2026. Boy, they lied to your ass, and I hope you didn't gobble that up. First of all, they don't issue funding a year in advance. That would be under the presumption they even have that kind of money, okay? Housing authorities at best can hold funding even at reserve for maybe a month and a half, okay? So I can just tell you that's nonsense. All right, I know enough about the system to know that. Funding a whole year. Are you kidding me, man? If they were doing that well, everybody in the nation would have a voucher and they'd have it tomorrow, fully paid for. All right, Joe Zabar, $50 billion to Venezuela, but cannot fund EBT. Well, the people that have the highest title make those decisions, right? So somebody decided that we were going to do something to either help or hurt another country. We're blowing up drug ships out of there, and then we're also donating money. Not everything in the political system is going to make sense. And it's never going to make sense from either party anyways. So, yeah, you're right. But you know what? Let's argue something different. We're talking about $50 billion to Venezuela. Let's talk about all the money that we as a nation have spent for assassinations, dethroning other dictators and leaders. And then we can just look at the funding for the country itself. Trillions spent on what? Highways. But yet you've got homeless people dying on the sidewalk. So we can make lots of arguments in both respects. It's the truth, but the whole truth is often missing. So we can make a lot of those arguments. Yeah, it's a shame. Maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't have. But unfortunately, you that made the comment and I that responded to that comment, we didn't get voted in office, did we? So therefore, you don't get a choice. So like I said in my last video, what you get is what you get. All right, so moving on from there. Deborah, and I will just quickly get a lawyer. Well, there are lots of them, man. They'll take your money. I hope you're successful in your venture for sure, because it is illegal. Lots of things are illegal. Okay, in any moment, I or any other human being on earth can decide to rob a bank, and thus it becomes illegal. That doesn't change anything, okay? People still going to do what they want to do. Same thing with the government. But I do see your point and your perspective, okay? Ned, I agree, Joseph. TrustWorks, poor don't have rights, please. They do have rights, but most don't have the money to exercise them. Let's repeat. Let's do a sing-along. Most have it, but don't have the money to exercise their rights. In other words, you have an indefensible position. So in many ways, it means if you don't have the money, the education, or even assets, you can't defend the position that you need in this whole circumstance. It means you don't have rights. So rights are administered in many different ways, aren't they? All right, moving on from there. Bayou, this will hurt renters and landlords tremendously. It'll make them both distrustful. And though each party is not trying to handicap the other, they have no choice. We literally make both sides of this act in bad faith, because what else can you do? The landlord needs more money to operate. The other person needs a house to live in. And then we got a government that doesn't want to pay. Forced menagerie. All right, moving on from there. If you don't like the word moving on from there, I don't know what else to say. I can say go to hell every time I want to skip to the next subject, but I don't think you'll appreciate that as often. Cam goes, I got put into a voucher program for mental health. Then I got diagnosed. I got evicted. And since then, I've been asking the PHA worker. It sounds like things have fallen apart for you. If you're having that many struggles, I would say reach out to my almas. We'll see if we can help you, okay? Miss Nelson, is it going to get better? Well, I was pulling my crystal ball out the toilet this morning, And after I cleaned off the toilet water, I determined that there is a potential that it could get better. The reality of it is, it can only get so if things go down, they have to come up eventually. So yes, but how much damage will be done, and will anybody trust each other? When you have an adversarial situation between renters, okay, so you have a renter and then you have a landlord. It's even though both parties know that they're not trying to screw each other. It's a setup. It's a setup to make it work badly. And they know that it's the government's responsibility, not theirs, but it still creates that problem, doesn't it? Holly. Holly says she works at a PHA. We are not crooks. We are bound by HUD guidelines. Well, you can speak for you and your office, Holly, but you cannot speak for the other 4,200 housing authorities. So unless you can demonstrate by evidence that you have reached out and showed me a call log to each one, where you could name the phone, the person that's the director there, all the employees, phone numbers and emails, then you're only talking about you and your personal circumstance. And the fact that you're a PHA employee makes little indifference to people. Anybody can go get that. It's like applying for a job at the grocery store. Okay, it does not make you an absolute authority of anything. I've been in the industry longer than you thought about doing your job. I probably could do it better. But again, I don't have an argument with you. I'm just suggesting that you're presenting to a public audience here, and you're only presenting your perspective to this. You don't represent that housing authority. You represent your job at that housing authority. That is it. That is the extent of the wisdom and knowledge that you have to grant us. All right? Let's make that clear to the general public. There's no authority in that whatsoever. Now, I might be at an inflection point where I could say, okay, well, she's the director of the housing authority, but you're not even that, okay? So we need to also make sure that we're clear in the public about the extent of our power. Yours is very limited. So therefore, it's irrelevant. Moving from there, Ocean Sound 100. If housing ends and I find a way to pay the rent, can landlords still kick you out? Well, they have an obligation to be paid. If they don't receive payment, then obligation's not met, regardless of the circumstances. So, they have a right to pursue payment, even if you're not at cause or fault. So then it becomes administrative decision for a judge as to culpability. Okay. Trustworks, not all PHAs are crooks. Very true. And I think that I've said that probably in approximately 200 to 300 videos. So we're rehashing old stuff. It's like we're reading from an old manual here. I've already discussed whether or not housing authorities and what values they have, okay? So while we're going over this, like you just came into some new information, I'm not understanding that, okay? If I'm speaking clear English, do you understand that? See, I don't like repeating things. That's what Paul parrots do. All right, moving on. I probably had too much coffee this morning, so everything's kind of incensing me a bit. Sophie Snuffy, I like that. I took a huge debt in the mid-90s and to help my parents stay in their home and to do so in comfort. That means I purchased their home and remodeled and refurnished it and gave them a lifetime occupancy. A lot of families are doing that. Their parents and second generation, even third generation, are being set up by their elders through purchase of homes. And really, the picture of that home, the idea or the concept of having a home would be mitigating financial risk. It's hard. And, I got to be honest with you, the rental market isn't much better than owning the home market. The costs are relative. But it does set it up when you can have a home and on a piece of land and you still have more proprietary rights than you likely would as a renter. So things are only as safe as supposedly as you make it. My son's mother. Oops, Ned, I meant. Okay. Hope is, are you living in a very expensive part of the U.S. and then consider moving to a cheaper location? I think that's a great goal. Look, I have a pretty ordinary life. Clearly, all the junk in the background that I have, I'm not independently wealthy. And in my retirement, I'll be living. Me and my poor cats will be living in travel trailer, not because I want to go back to what I used to be growing up, trailer trash, and from South Louisiana, but the travel trailer allows travel and freedom. And hey, guess what? There's no property tax, right? And of course, you get to come and go as you like. It seems rather perfect for me in my circumstance. And in the future, it may be a good option for many of you that are low income to consider that option. Travel trailers are not that expensive, and neither is the cost to park them in RV parks and the opportunity to be out in the mountains in the snow or even ride down to Florida. It releases you from so much of the debts and burdens of being a homeowner or a renter. But I realize that's unrealistic for many of you as you deal with many issues, but it's an idea. You can buy these RVs and trailers for as low as $10,000. And it could help you fend off and defend yourself against a rather inflated future. Costs keep going up. You own something, it doesn't go up anymore. This is the only way to eliminate property tax. So I'm just saying, okay, it's an idea. I'm certainly going to do it. I don't mind that at all. I would love to be able to switch states every year or so and pursue my hobbies and different things. I think it's a fantastic idea. And the government has no way to give me any property tax. It's wonderful. I can put solar on top of my travel trailer and I can go see every national park in the country. I can move every month, and it's not a problem. I literally move, and my trailer is the moving company. Stuff's in there. I think it's fantastic. I don't want to die in one spot in some house with a bunch of flipping bills. So that's my solution to it. All right, TrustWorks, I am here to learn who's inspired inspection service from HUD. All right, hopefully you either inherit your parents' home or rent an entire life. They're about the same these days. There used to be some great advantages of home ownership with property. Let me tell you something. You can get great property taxes until everybody moves in your neighborhood. And then guess what? It all goes up. The next thing you know, you're paying rent again. You're paying rent against your house. That's called owning the home. Property taxes are just rent. Divide it by 12 and you've got rent again. I've never understood that we need to pay that stuff additionally. I already bought the house, the land. Now, why do I need to pay rent on it? Why do I need to pay rent on it? Are you kidding me? Well, that's how we do it. LaShonda, good morning. Crystal Watson, I hope that's right. Watson, good morning. Yes, I want to see the country. I think it's a fabulous idea. Travel trailers are perfect. You get them once a whole season. Look, they make them nice enough now, man. On the inside, you'd feel like you was in a New York loft. I have to make sure mine's big enough for my 4 cats, because otherwise, well, it's cat scratch fever in there. Christina, I love a nice tiny home. Look, it's been a long time since I lived on a house on wheels, like Mom used to say, but this is how you do it properly. 100K a year is now considered poverty in Silicon Valley. That's below poverty. If you hit 130, it just means you're poor. I'll take whatever income I make through my business, and in my travel trailer as I move through Utah and Idaho and Washington State and other places like Arizona and the Mojave Desert. And I ain't paying anybody. I'm paying for gasoline and insurance, internet connection. That's about it. That leaves me a whole lot of extra money, and there's no property tax. All right. So anyways, while I'm sitting here trying to convince you guys of different ways to live, Cab says, I was told that our vouchers are frozen from in the state and transfers. Well, the freezing, supportability, that's what that is. And freezing those vouchers means they don't have the money to continue to pay for a voucher that's not being used in the place where it was awarded. And with lack of funding altogether, grabbing a voucher and going to a different part of the country called portability, and that process being billing and absorbing becomes an impossibility when there's not much money left, if any, And then we face no additional funding with government shutdown. So there are many things that are coming to a point here. Sophie goes on, be very careful in those national parks. Yep, Sasquatches. You're right. Won't find no Papa's chicken at the bottom of the mountain, right? We'll figure it out. I've got a grill. I'm a very good griller. The problem is I'm concerned about leaving the cooler and refrigerator on as I travel. That's the number one reason for burning your travel trailer down, you know. And if I'm in there cooking fried chicken like Mom used to do, we'll really be in trouble. If the grease gets loose, then all the cats are going to go up in smoke, and so will I. Moving on from there, Trina, good morning. Are landlords still being paid? Some are, some are not. Even more will be less. Even more will not be paid the further this goes. So we have a threshold here. We have from current, as of right now, 1 week till the end of October, and then 2 weeks, 3 weeks till the middle of November. This is a risk or danger zone. So we're in it right now. The closer we get to the 15th of November, the more explosive the circumstances will get, and the more vouchers will be failed to be paid for, okay? You'll see this play out because it'll be day by day, and I will be monitoring, and so will almost everybody else in the country that has to utilize housing programs or vouchers. So the nature of what's happening has become rather serious. I'm sure we'll all be popping the party balloons when the, government shutdown ends, because otherwise you're going to watch no food stamps will be issued, or a lot of them will no longer work because we run out. Like I said, they're begging for that right now. They're already having meetings about that, and they can't even get either party to approve $12 million. That's it. Okay, that didn't cover the bill. Just a short package of something to get the guys talking again for maybe a couple of days. 12 million, right? They won't even agree on that. So it'll run out. It'll run out probably in the month, or a little past that, and so will the vouchers, money that's included in the voucher package, you should say. Likely we'll start seeing a whole lot of problems there. And let's be clear, there are already problems with housing authorities not making payments. Some of the biggest housing authorities in the country right now have stopped making payments. They have no money coming in. They've overspent their budget. We're at the critical end of a year, which means the books are cooked for the year. Anybody who's ever been in business understands that. So what all can play out? Well, quite a bit. What I'm telling you guys is to be well aware. It's not about scaring you. What I'm saying is, you can call the housing authority and see whether they're going to be truthful with you, or they're going to lie flat out to your face, and then you'll watch things go badly in about a week from now. Or you can try to, you can just accept. Sometimes the best thing we can all just do, just accept what's going to happen. Because honestly, a lot of what I'm discussing right now, nobody can really change. What's going to happen is going to happen. We've only got 3 weeks left. What's going to happen will happen. If you're going to lose your voucher, you'll lose it. The bigger argument should be is, if you do lose your voucher, if you do lose your food stamps, what can we do quickly to get you back where you need to be? That really needs to be the conversation. Okay? Otherwise, we're all just here in this video, and we're just talking about things that aren't going to make a damn bit of difference. Okay? I'm asserting that we don't really have any control on how this is going to play out. I'm just letting you know it's coming, and then we'll need to clean up the pieces after that. Okay, that's the best way to put it. All right, so I see some laughing emojis. Now, if anybody hurts my feeling, I'm gonna be ugly. One giant lie is the name of this person. Better off buying a work trailer and fixing it to live in it. I'm not mechanically inclined, so I'd be like a person that has a cardboard box on wheels. I'd rather just purchase it. We all have our differences of opinions. You would build something, and I bet you're a fantastic builder. I'm not. I want to get straight to the point. I want those tires on the concrete, and I want to take off and start heading out on my journey for the rest of my life. Trustworks goes on. Come on, Jay. Who inspired? Do you have to pay? No disrespect. Let me ask you a question, guys. When you clock into your job, does your employer ask you whether or not you like to work for free? I know owning Section 8 consultant, yeah, I charge. Look, my time ain't free. I'm not, this ain't no nonprofit. I got better shit to do. Videos are free. Okay. Even a 12-year-old that rakes you leaves, you think that little bastard's going to work for free? Don't ask me to do it. Okay. This is America. We're capitalists. You want free, baby doll, going down to North Korea. You could work for free in the labor camp. I don't even want to hear that shit out of anybody's mouth. What? I thought everything was free. I've got a free food stamp card. I've got a free internet. I've got a free Obama phone. I've got so much free shit I forgot that I had work slippers. But I dust them off. Times are tough. Ain't nobody got time for the welfare religion. You got to be well grown here. You got to get out there and do what you got to do. So no, I don't do free service calls. I work through these videos, try to help people here. Okay. Because I enjoy it. I enjoy talking with you guys. And if it's possible to help you, I help you here. But if I've got to pick up my personal telephone and help you, then there's a cost to that. Okay. That's reality. That's what capitalism is. Welcome to America. In Canada, you can get all kinds of free things. You can get free health care. You can get free phone calls, but I'm not Canadian. All right, moving on down. Trina Colette, my rent was raised $580 to $1150. That's a shocker. Look, double bubble, baby. Look, double bubble. People charging because they can. You go down to the gas station, they putting price tags on things in the gas station. Only the wealthy can walk in there without shivering. I walked to the gas station recently and put no price tag. I said, you must be addressing the independently wealthy. I walked the hell out of there. If you got it so good, you could just not put price tag and just bill anybody's ass whatever. Boy, I can't even imagine that kind of shop. That'd be like walking into Macy's. No, we don't do price tags here. You select an item and you must purchase it. If you got that kind of money, then good for you. I'm not that stupid and clueless. Okay? You got to be a rodeo clown to do that. Ocean Sound 100 Democrats are so caring, but they do need to see what's going on. Okay, Ocean, let's get down to business here. Ain't got nothing to do with Democrat. Humans are humans, okay? Whether you're Republican or Democrat, if a person's shitty or not, then that's what it is, okay? Let's not forget. Just like a lot of you guys, when I talked about what states I was going to go to, y'all tried to put politics on that. Like I would drive up to a state, get right to the state sign. I'm at Mississippi state sign. Excuse me, Mr. Mississippi. Are you Republican? Because if you are, I'm going to have to ride my travel trailer into the fucking ocean and around your state. I don't make decisions based on politics. Are you kidding me? So anyways, just having a little fun with you guys. I'm going to skip a few comments because some of you guys are prolific commenters. In other words, y'all comment about every third comment. I can't keep up with you. I don't know if you've been hitting the sugar bowl or what, but man, y'all got some typing skills in here. I can't do this. Trina again. Trina and Trustworks. Man, you guys, y'all gonna earn every badge in my YouTube channel. Y'all keep commenting like this. Anybody, I want you to raise your hand and comment if you're new to the channel. Give people a little space. All right, Lou, we have to be a realist. You're absolutely correct. Way better than Plan B. Thank you. Christina, would it be possible for each state to afford financing its own housing? Well, that'd be a big problem because places like Alabama and Mississippi would be the first ones that would get nothing. Okay, tax bases are different in every state, and so are their debts. We have to keep in mind these programs support Americans. Okay, we all like to show our pride. We're all loving each other, baking cakes, and celebrating the war effort. Right? The minute the war is over, then we're just Republicans and Democrats that don't like each other. Right? But right after the war, we're popping champagne. Let's have brotherly love. The minute the war's over, right? Then we're all just Democrats and Republicans. Look at that piece of shit over there. You know, We got to stop that. We're still all human, okay? You're voting. You got to quit tying so much your reality to your voting, okay? A vote's a vote. Remember what I told you guys about riding in the car? If you want to drive it, then you get voted into office. You can make all the decisions for everybody else. Otherwise, you're the 3-year-old in the background in the car seat. And what do we call that? Being a heckler. It means you voted, but nobody gives a shit. Okay? So those who are driving the steering wheel in Congress, you're the 3-year-old in the back seat talking smack. Nobody gives a shit about that. Okay, you voted them in. That was the end of your party. That was the end of the celebration. Now you are subject to their rules, whether you like the shit or not. Me being in a travel trailer, I can be a Democrat and Republican in the same flipping day. All I got to do is cross state lines. Not that it matters to me. I don't even ask how my cat's registered to vote. If I found out I had a Republican cat in my house, I would throw it the fuck out my house. Or maybe if it was a Democrat, I might throw it out the house. It's a good thing our pets can't vote because then we would be prejudicial to that as well. You guys have got to calm down. Focus on you and your own. Focus on you and your own, not what your politicians are doing. They're going to do it anyways. You think the people in Congress are laying up at night worried about your ass? Okay, they're on a $2,000 jail mattress surrounded by the wife with $48,000 of gold wrapped around her neck. They just had a $6,000 bottle of wine. Do you think they honestly give a shit about your hillbilly ass in West Virginia or some redneck in Louisiana? Do they think about you and your vote? They don't give a shit about that. Okay, that's real clear. The government's closed right now. That's them blowing you a kiss. Hey, we don't give a fuck. You know, so I don't worry about how I'm going to travel through this old world. I worry about what I'm doing, what I run. I run my ship, my yard, my travel trailer, and my cats. I'm the king of this fucking village, and I'm not going to let any Democrat or Republican dictate shit to me about that. That's the attitude all you need to have. After you cast your fucking vote, that is the end of your mouth running. You get what you get. You got to keep that in mind, guys. You need to spend the other 99% of your time worrying about your own shit. And so for this video, we're asking the big question. What are the crazy people doing in the government right now to solve? And so we can get some dollars going. Because what they're doing is all of us are paying, right? We're all paying for this shit. We paid for the building they in there. But they're not in the building. They're not in the building doing nothing. We're writing bills for crazy shit again, and neither party wants to do nothing. We paid for that. So you pay for a service that you have no control over. Ain't no chargebacks to Congress. You can't go, oh, well, I got screwed. I'd like a chargeback on my Visa card. Nope, you get what you get. You get they blew you a kiss. You got to look at this. It's all perspective, how you look at it. And I know I'm being a little bit lighthearted here. And for some of you, I'm probably pissing you off, but that's okay. I'm used to a little bit of adversarial conversation in the channel. It's good for your blood pressure. I'm even hoping for a few death threats today. Nothing goes with coffee like a good death threat. All right, moving back. Joseph Barr, cat's a Republican, of course. Joseph, don't be the village nut. I'll have to discipline you in the channel, damn it. I'm kidding. Kathy M's laughing. Crystal, that's right, brother. Maria, so true. They don't care. Alicia Nielsen, they need to look up the definition of democracy. Why would they need to do that? The lunch menu is all wine bottles and cigars. I can just see these people. I'm telling you, they're riding around in $100,000 car and going to get their nails done, going to go down to the hair shop. These fucking people are not sitting in Congress. Look, if I run that, I would turn the air conditioning fucking off and I'd lock them in there. No, it'd be just like voting in the Pope in the 13th century. I cut the fucking lights off, everything, and then you get bread and crackers, bitch, till you come up with some money. Both parties, bread and crackers for them. Matter of fact, might even remove toilet privileges. I'll make your fucking ass work. You know, I mean, I know that's mean, but seriously. But instead, they're in Capitol Hill at Jim's Steakhouse having a $280 steak, trying to solve the world crisis, just cutting through that marbly steak, right? Yo, waiter, give me the Paris 2016. I'm trying to solve a crisis here. Fucking people up there, I swear to God. Best way to get banned from my travel trail is talk about politics. I even hear a cat meow that says politic, or I hear a meow that sounds like Republican or Democrat. You get voted off the island. I don't want to hear shit about that. Starts charging cover, right? Well, I'm glad I got to cut the rug with you guys. It's been fun trying to be lighthearted. But beyond the lightheartedness, take note, guys. Things are going to be coming very difficult the next couple of weeks. I hope for all of our sake that all of us as hecklers in the child's seat while Congress drives the car, that at some point these guys come to a decision before we end up making an already difficult situation for many people that are families and elderly and veterans and so on, taking an already shitty situation and just making it explosively bad. However, I'm rather excited at the concept that many PHAs will have to suffer. I couldn't even put a price on that. I despise most of those housing authorities, except the ones that run really well. And one thing I want to give a kudos to, there are a wide number of housing authorities that operate highly professionally and deserve almost an honorary degree, but there are so many of them that don't. And watching them go bankrupt gives me the greatest pleasure in my career. I love to see a bunch of them go down, but unfortunately, they're a necessary fucking evil for a lot of us. Okay? For many of my clients. So that being said, enjoy Halloween week. I'll be back in another day. Hopefully we have something good and spicy for you guys. When this government shutdown's over, we're going to have a lot of positive videos. I'm sure I'll find some way to keep you guys laughing. It's hard for everybody. Look, even I'm struggling right now, and I'm not a Section 8 participant. I'm not on food stamps, but look, I'm like every other red-blooded American. These are tough times. You know, I called just one example before I go. I called a company to see if they could help me out with cleaning out my truck. Okay, I already have a lot of responsibilities trying to sell all property and assets to move. And you know that little bastard quoted me $200. He literally thought somewhere in his delusional, twisted brain that I would pay him $200 to clean in the truck. Okay, not detailing the Ferrari. This is how far fucking disconnected the younger generations become. They think they're doctors and lawyers, commanding prices upwards higher than mechanics. Just because mommy gave you a toy mop when you were a child does not mean you can command $500 to clean a house, okay? Get a fucking grip. You want to come to me those kind of prices, you better have a PhD in your hand, partner. Not a GD you just printed out. And I don't even mean that. If you got a GD, that's fine. But sit there and come up to crazy shit. This is the new world we're living in. Let's all jack each other. We'll do it so badly that you got to take a second mortgage every week. And it's just escalating, right? $200 a vacuum carpet. Honestly, I almost felt like a death threat was appropriate because who actually would pay that shit? So, and again, I'm going to be clear about that distinction. This is a little bit of cleaning in a 15-year-old truck, not detailing a Ferrari, okay? And either way, the skill level required, the educational, having a PhD in vacuuming, a bachelor's degree in vacuuming, and using a rag, you're not going to give me any fucking argument ever that would be appropriate to pay anybody that. I don't give a shit. Okay? If you're getting away with it, it's a little more than a scam. You want to pay people for genuine work, then pay your nurses, your fire and ambulance services. Those are the people that deserve that kind of money. They actually produce something in society that's meaningful. Coming out here with a toy vacuum cleaner and playing big girl and big boy. Oh, I'm going to vacuum the carpet today. I demand big jacked up prices. Nothing but toy clowns. Okay? Got your priorities all fucked up. And those of you enabling this kind of shit by purchasing that nonsense, that's wild. And like I said, I get it. If you've got a $100,000 truck, you know, are you driving around in a Lincoln Mark 28? I get that. So if your services can only be priced at that, then it means to me the only people you're willing to service are those that are wealthy, that have lots of money. So it's a very discriminatory business too, right? Oh, I only clean houses and bill 500 because I don't deal with trash and low-income people. Hell, I don't even deal with the middle class because I'm that kind of uppity bitch. That's what it says. So if we're gonna get to it, let's get to it. There it is. Now your mouth ain't running. People need to stop enabling that behavior. There are lots of people that could use a job. I could go down to downtown where I live. I bet any one of the homeless people, he'll vacuum the living shit out of there. Okay? I pick up a drug addict. $5 and crack cocaine, I guarantee that truck will sparkle for $10. Not that I want to do that or that would be appropriate, but you see my point. But yet another believes they're so entitled part of that. This is the kind of shit I'm talking about in this country. It's troublesome. We're only wanting to service the wealthy. Oh, you ain't got it, then you ain't getting nothing. Get you a roll of quarters, bitch, go down to the car wash. That general attitude that makes you a smug bitch. All right, well, I've said enough about that. I'm so surprising the evolution of the country the last 10 years. It's disturbing at best because I look at so many people that could benefit from the extra help and extra services, but we've entered a phase in services where we only can give to the haves. Oh, well, grandma, she's 90. She ain't got no money in her check, so we ain't gonna wash her car. She can't afford my stupid prices. We can't clean grandma's house because I only deal with uppity fucking people with 6-bedroom houses where I can lollipop all day and twirl my curls, you know. But you see what I'm saying? We're getting in a phase where all services are only meant for the wealthy. That we take no great pride in helping anybody anymore. We disconnected from reality. That the low income, the seniors, veterans, and disabled are simply unimportant, just trash. We couldn't possibly clean his house. We couldn't possibly wash car. That old bastard, he ain't got no money, so I don't do that because I'm uppity. I only deal with uppity. So, you know, this is the world this is a new world we live in. If I had that general concept in play with my company, then I would charge $5,000 for casework. Well, I only deal with a little bit of low income. Forget the rest of trash. They can't afford my uppity ass. I spent thousands of hours not billing anything. Okay, over an entire career. I did sit there and think about how I could sit here and burn as much of people's money and time as I could to enrich my own ass. So there's no argument that can be levied here. So we didn't think about it because all these things play together. And eventually, when you get enough stuff working and operating this way, then we have a society of lunatics. If you disagree, then you're probably one of those people. That's okay. Those of us that know hard times and very little money or maybe on a fixed income, there's one good thing about people like that. They weather all storms. They know how to fight. But the uppity, when the party's good, they're uppity. But they're never prepared for the storm, are they? Because they like to spend as much as they make. And so when business gets bad, they're the first one to fall like a domino because, well, they've been living that high and mighty life, only serving the wealthy. I've watched so many fools and rodeo clowns fall to that pressure. They can't weather storms because they live in this magical way of doing business. So, all right. Well, I have aired my own grievances as well today. I guess y'all came to do a little dirty laundry with me, hadn't you? LaShonda, good morning. Alicia, I did that $5 every weekend in high school. Many of you that are over 40 understand what I mean. Some in their 30s, virtually none in their 20s. Not everything's about money, guys. Sometimes, as humans, we need to care for others. Okay? Caring means that you're doing it out of the goodwill of your heart, not how much your checkbook's got. We live in times where ethics and morals are out the window. Self-enrichment at the benefit and cost of many people, leaving people in dire situations that may not have a lot through old age or being handicapped, paralyzed, and everything else. And so the market is going in bad places, man. And I'm seeing this, and it's hellish because people that don't have a lot of income still need help. And if your business model is I only serve the people that can enrich my pocket, well, you lost everything that makes yourself a human. You're nothing but a robotic. Well, I'm going to be careful here before I go off the deep end again. All right, guys, let me wrap this up. I don't like preaching about this kind of stuff, but, we really need to think about our center of gravity because that's what all this comes down to. In the same preaching we're talking now, if we go back to the very topic that began this video, is the people in charge. You want these people to relate to you, but they have everything. How could they ever relate? How could this even be important to them when the highlight of their day, the most pressing thing they need to do is go to yoga or maybe Pilates, or that man, the highlight of his day is getting in his $170,000 Mercedes Benz and planning lunch. That's his agenda for the day. It is not solving a shutdown. He ain't got a care in the world because the very thing that affects the nation doesn't really affect the wealthy, does it? So he don't know. He's like a lollipop in their own neighborhood. And then, of course, the ultimate position is it'll get done when it gets done because neither party seems to honestly give a shit whether or not this even ends. They're both off just doing their own thing. All right, wrapping it up, guys. I've really enjoyed talking with you. And for those of you who can accept reality and talk will do well. If you don't like that, you want people to whisper sweet little things and blow unicorns out your ass, I'm off the channel, okay? Enjoy your day.